Hey, welcome back to my channel, Indieauthor Jill, where I read and review indie-authored books. Today we are looking at The Conjurer and the Corpse by C.E. Colemane. This is basically, like, when I first read it, when I first looked at it, I was, like, definitely giving off Sherlock Holmes vibes. And then when I read the back, how do you solve a murder that hasn't been committed yet? Call a magician. Redwald de Cordonnay, expert in obscure and arcane magic, arrives in the village of Martingale-on-True to investigate a chilling impossibility. Alice Hawtree has discovered her own mutilated corpse lying in the study, displaced in time. Her future killer is out there waiting to strike. To save her, Redwald must race against the clock to unravel a conspiracy rooted deep in the village's past, one twisted by festering grudges, feudal intrigue, and unrequited love, all while facing his own literal demons. Can he subvert the iron will of fate, or is Alice Hawtree doomed to die? Now, with the idea of Alice discovering her own corpse he's got to figure out, okay, apparently she's not dead yet because she discovered her own corpse. It very much alludes to magic, so I was just like, okay, so Sherlock Holmes, but make it magic, right? And, yes. He also has some, like, if you ever watched the show Monk, he's very monkish. He likes to keep things clean, but not so much so that it's like just a little bit of the fastidiousness of Adrian Monk. But yeah, I stand by the Sherlock Holmes but make it magic. It took me a while to get through this book, not just because of a hectic work schedule that presented itself, but also because there's not a lot of reality in this fantasy world. There are buildings, there are people, there are, kingdoms and fiefdoms and barons and what have, but some of the things that I have never heard some of the things that were mentioned in here. The hobs, for instance, I had never heard of a hob. And it's these furry, four-armed creatures that are usually used as servants. There's these bird-like human-like bird things, and they have such an incredible lore to them that at one point he meets a female working in a shop, and he explains that this is unusual because most of the time when these creatures are born, they're born male, and the female births are so rare that they are basically royalty. And so for this woman to work in a shop, she had to give up a royal prestigious title and everything to come and work in this shop. And I kind of like that it doesn't really go into it as to why she gave up her name or gave up her title and everything. It's just kind of left to your imagination. It's not really important to the story, but it's a nice little thing of, oh, I wonder what happened. I wonder what the story is behind there, what happened. There's giants in this story. There's transfiguration or transformative magic. But there's so many things that were new to me that it made me want to pay more attention to those new things, the hobs and the abrions. I'm not sure what they were called. But it was I like I said, I can't really find it. Also, it is not kidding when the back says dealing with his own literal demons. Uh, Again, there's another story there that you're not really, you get like bits and pieces of it, but you're not really given the full picture. And I don't know if there's more to this story, like if this is, part of a series or if it's a standalone, but there is a demon that haunts him. And apparently there is a promise or a debt he made with this demon that he has not yet paid and is unwilling to pay. And the demon is just likes to mess with him. He likes to come and chat with him, and he gives him kind of clues along the way, but none of them are really helpful. And even when he's being honest, he's being incredibly honest, but it's still not helpful, because he doesn't give him any, like, when he's like, oh yeah, this, you're solving this case, right? And he's like, no, what of it? And he's like, oh yeah, you failed to save her. She's dead before you even arrived. And he's like, no, she's not. She discovered, like, she's still alive. I know where she is, And so, he's telling him these things, and as he points out, he's like, well, yeah, she was dead before he arrived because the body was found. So, like, there was a dead body to find. Whether or not he fails or succeeds in keeping Alice alive is irrelevant, because a body has been found and he has been called to investigate a body that shouldn't be there. Obviously, because, like, I mean, I know it would be weird for me to go in and see, like, oh, that's me. What am I doing there? Like, I'm not dead. Like, that would be such a mind messer, So, understandably, Alice is just, like, completely beside herself and is taken to bed because, I mean, it was such a shock to her. So, it doesn't matter, if he saves her or not, because if he does save her, she still has to live with this image burned into her brain of, I found my own dead body, whether it was temporarily displaced through time and circumstance or not. I still saw it, and it still had an effect, So, yeah, but the world building, like, there's weaponry, as you can see on the cover. There are guns in play, but the guns don't work in the same way that we work, and that they work here with, like, gunpowder and bullets and whatnot. Everything works with either orsite, which is a type of metal, or crystals, and some kind of technology with crystals. And it's permeative throughout this entire book, because there's orsite burning, there's crystals burning, and there's, but it's interesting because you might have some moments where you have there's a bit of dialogue that people tend to tell you to avoid when it comes to writing, and it's a "as you know, Bob" dialogue. And what this is when you take someone who already knows what's going on. Say, for instance, if you have, for instance, Frodo Baggins and Samwise talking, and they're like, well, as you know, us hobbits love our gardens and everything. Sam's not going to have that conversation necessarily with Frodo about what life is like for a hobbit, because Frodo is a hobbit. He lives that life. He doesn't need it explained to him. It's just exposition you're giving for the reader's benefit. But there is a bit of, as you know, Bob dialogue, and this is where you can use an as you know Bob dialogue well. And it's done very much with Redwald in the same way it would be done with any of us if we knew something but didn't know everything about it. For instance, as you know, Bob, here is when a gun expert is explaining, well, not a gun expert, it's the chief investigator. He is explaining how guns work to Redwald. Now, Redwald lives in this world. He has used guns before. He knows how guns work to an extent. He knows how modern guns in his time work. And the investigator is explaining to him, he's like, well, you know how, well, as you know, our guns like this work with this, right? And Redwald's like, yes, of course that's how guns work. And he says, okay, well, once upon a time, that wasn't the case because Orsight was not able to be purified the way it is now. We didn't have the technology, so instead, Orsight wasn't used, crystals were used. And he explains how the crystals were used. And this is an excellent example of, and as you know, Bob, type of dialogue that actually works because we, like I said, we use it in our own language, in everyday language, where we might say, okay, well, you know how coal burns, you know, and you might use that to move on to explain how something else works that is similar or in the same realm of that. Or for instance, when my husband is trying to explain electricity to me, I know how certain electricity works. But arcing electricity, he has to explain, and he has to explain it to me every single time because I just can't grasp the arcing thing. But he'll explain it. He's like, well, you know how electricity flows through a wire, like, continuously. And I was like, yeah, I know that. And he's like, well, in an arc, that doesn't happen. And I may be explaining it wrong because, like I said, I don't really know electricity. I know I turn on the light, I flip a switch, and a light bulb comes on. Or I push a button on the washer and it starts washing, and electricity and water, somehow these two elements don't usually mix, but somehow they mix in a washing machine or a dishwasher, and it's okay. I don't know how any of that works. I don't know the specifics of that. I just know that electricity moves the drum or whatever it is, apparatuses in the washing machine, and the washing machine works. And if it doesn't work, I don't go monkeying around with the electricity part in the wires trying to figure out why it doesn't work. I call somebody who already knows that stuff. And with Redwald, he doesn't have necessarily that luxury of being able to trust everything to somebody else. He has to get a gun expert because he doesn't know about guns, but he does need them to kind of walk him through because he enchants a ribbon, and that ribbon has to be dealt with and handled specifically by him, not by anyone else. So, that being the case, he not only needs to have the gun expert tell him which guns fit the category he's looking at, but why they fit the category, and he wants to be precise about this, which is where the monkishness and Sherlock Holmes-ness comes in. This is actually one of the ways he kind of differs from Sherlock Holmes, because with Sherlock Holmes, he has this understanding of one's brain should not be filled with useless information, and anything that is considered useless is anything that doesn't pertain to one's own vocation. So if it doesn't pertain to solving a crime, Sherlock Holmes has no use for that information. So when Dr. Watson talks to him about the solar system, he is absolutely perplexed about what he's talking about. He knows nothing of the solar system. And as he tells Dr. Watson, what does it matter to me if the sun goes around the earth or the earth goes around the sun? It doesn't make a difference. I can't control any of that. I can't change any of it. It has nothing to do with me directly. It works, and I'm happy to let it work. I don't need to know about the solar system. I need to know about ballistics. I need to know about poisons. I need to know about different things, all of these different things that he has to worry about as a detective. So for Sherlock Holmes, he does know about guns. He knows them intimately, from the ancient guns to the old guns to the new guns to modifiers and different add-ons. And Redwald doesn't know that, which is kind of, like I said, where he kind of differs from Sherlock. But again, with Redwald, he kind of comes at it as a I'll learn it when I need to know it type situation, because he doesn't know what he needs to know until the need to know it arrives. So up to this point, he hasn't really needed to know about guns, but now he needs to know about guns. The other thing that I found amusing in this story is his train ride companions. There's a mother and a daughter duo, and every time he gets on a train, he seems to find himself with this duo, and he's just like, why? And he's fine with them. Like, there's nothing necessarily wrong with them, only there's a lot wrong with them. They're perfectly pleasant. Well, the daughter's perfectly pleasant. The mother, she's a mother. And you know what I mean. She's not a mom. She is a mother. Okay, she's a Karen. Yeah, that's a good thing. That's a good way of describing it. She's a Karen. But the daughter is chatty, and when I say mother and daughter, I mean an adult daughter and an elderly woman. But so the woman is chatty, and Redwald, like, she does not take hints very easily. He's like sitting there with a letter and trying to read it, and she's like talking to him, and he's like holding the letter up higher to read it. Like, take a hint, I'm trying to read, leave me alone. But no, she's not going to leave him alone. She's going to ask him a million questions. And the mother is going to sit over there harumping and growling, and she's a very unpleasant person altogether. But she's made a little bit more pleasant by the talkative daughter, who, yes, she's chatty and asks a million questions, but she's pleasant, she's nice, and she's genuinely interested in him and his work. And, but every time he's on the train, he'll sit there and he'll be like getting a nap or anything, and then all of a sudden he hears these voices. He's like, here we go. You know. And I do kind of like that they just kind of keep popping up. And, yeah, I think that's nice. I won't say anything more about them because then it would become spoilery, but it is fun to see them keep popping up, and he's just like, why? Why? You know, and even the disagreement between her and her mother's like, he was quite rude, and that was very rude of him. He shouldn't have acted like that. I have half a mind to go back there, and she's like, Mom, no. We couldn't sit there because it was reserved. And she's like, well, I don't know why he couldn't just let us sit there. Because it was reserved. You can't sit in a reserved seat. And she's like, well, it wouldn't have killed him. He had no manners. And she's just like, Mom, just stop. You know. And like I said, this is what makes Alyssa, the daughter, bearable. Because, you know, even though her mother is completely unbearable and unhinged, Alyssa is actually very sweet and very nice and very kind, even if she does talk a lot and won't shut up and won't stop asking him a million questions while he's trying to either sleep or read his note. As I said, the whole world is completely made up. The days of the week are made up, the years are made up, the months, the religion, it's all like I said, it was so new to me. So it's like I was trying to pay attention to everything, because when you have a new world that you're not familiar with, you don't know what's important, especially when dealing with a murder mystery. You don't know what's going to be those small little things that are important to, you know, keep a hold of. So I don't know what else to say about it without giving things away. The transformative magic was kind of my favorite. I enjoyed that very much. When he first was about to transform, I did speculate on what he was going to transform into, and I had like 3 different guesses. And then to find out that none of them were right. And then at first when I see what he turned into, I was just like, really? It's a little lame. But then as I'm, you know, sitting there reading it, and I'm thinking about what I am reading. You know, I am reading a murder mystery, and the 3 things that I thought he should turn into obviously did not fit with a murder mystery theme. So obviously he had to turn into what he turned into, and it was just like, oh, duh. Needless to say, I think that there's definitely some thread friends that are definitely going to like this book. They will definitely find either themselves or their favorite animal identity in here. But yeah. What else should I say? Like I said, I don't want to give anything away. Oh, I will say, I was sort of right. I was not. I don't want to say I was right about the killer, because I obviously wasn't. But I was right about who needed to be imprisoned. We'll go with that. So I was correct about who needed to go into prison. The only reason I thought that person should go into prison is just because I just really didn't like that person. You know, they just rubbed me the wrong way and irked me, and I was just like, I so hope you're the guilty person, because I just don't like you. And so I was right, but not because of the reasons I thought I was right. They didn't. Like I said, they went to prison, but it was, like I said, it's a weird case, because how do you solve a murder that hasn't happened yet? And, like, how do you arrest a murderer that hasn't yet murdered? You know? And you only have these little bits and pieces. So, yeah. That's all I've got for you right now. I will talk to you guys later. The next book I'm reading is Brewing Up Christmas. That's part of my Advent calendar Christmas book thing. And then once I'm done with that, Take a Shot by Paul Anderson. Let's see if I find I read 2 books that I DNF'd. Not because there was anything wrong with them, and I will talk about them in another video. Maybe, I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I just DNF'd them just because they weren't for me. One was... I found it hard to keep up with it, and the other one was just not my thing. And by the time I got halfway through, I just didn't care how it ended. So I have 2 books that I have not finished because of reasons. They, like I said, they weren't bad or anything, just not for me. But yeah, this is the next one for the Christmas books, and Take a Shot. This one actually looks interesting, so I'm probably going to finish it. So, you'll find out, I guess. If I finish it and like it, I will do a review video for it. If I don't finish it or I don't like it, then I won't. And as we go, you know? So, yeah. That's all I've got for you. So, until next time, bye.